Hey everybody, it's Matt. Hope you all are having a good weekend and a good Sunday. I just thought I would check in and make a video that, well, first off up front, little warning, this isn't really a music video. It doesn't have too much or any music content in it, so I know there have been some people that get a little put out if you're in the VC and you talk about anything other than music. So just wanted to let those people know that this will not be records and music. So I guess y'all can go away now. And anyone left, if you want to stay and watch the video, how you doing? Hope you're having a good day. This is a response of sorts to a video that me and Mr. Mayo, Joe, made a couple of days ago. Everybody, I think, in the VC knows who Joe is. If not, he's a great guy, one of the pillars of the VC. He has a great channel where he talks about music and the Beatles in particular, but a lot of different types of music. Should definitely subscribe to that if you haven't. Well, about a month ago, he added a second channel that's called Mayo's Marquee, because he's also a big movie fan, movie buff. And so on that channel, he talks about all things movies. And he's made several videos on that channel already, all of them interesting stuff and really good. So both of those channels are worth subscribing to if you haven't. I'm like movies as well, and maybe I should make a second channel for just movie talk, but at this point I'm just going to keep my regular channel and we'll see how it goes. So that's why I'm doing a movie thing. What Joe did the other day was to go through the list of the movies that have won Academy Awards over the years and said whether he agreed with that or not. You know, if he thought, yeah, that was they made the right choice there. If not, he named what he thought should have been the best picture of that given year, or a couple of pictures or whatever that he thought were better or were in contention that should have been picked as best pictures of that year. Now, Bobby Gass, honorary cuss that he is, we all love Bobby Gass, got on there and said, you know, it's not about awards, it's about enjoying a movie and whether a movie's any good or not. I couldn't agree more. I don't really watch the Academy Awards. I haven't watched them in, I don't know, it's been a long time. And even when I used to watch them when I was younger, I always thought they were a little silly, and I always thought it was kind of, you know, saying, I guess there's nothing wrong with saying what your favorite movie of a given year is, but it's all subjective. But just the whole, this is the best movie, and they usually, in my opinion, pick wrong. And but just that idea of saying this is the best movie, and so it's kind of like, well, these other movies that were nominated, or these other good movies that didn't get nominated, they're not any good. I don't, you know, maybe take it a little too serious there, and it doesn't really matter if someone wants to make it best movie. But anyway, I just thought it was fun what Joe did, because it also reminded me that I had a book that I picked up at Borders Bookstore, I think it was about 20 years ago, back around 93, 94, 5, that was called Alternate Oscar, and the book had every Academy Award year up to that point, I think up to like 92 or so, and it listed the movie that won the Best Picture Award that year, and it listed all the other films that were nominated, and then the guy that wrote the book said, you know, what he thought should have been the best picture that year, and sometimes he agreed with their choice, but anyway, I don't have that book anymore. I wish I did, because it was kind of fun to read, but I had kind of forgotten about that, and when I saw Joe's video, I thought it was really fun and great idea for a video, and thought, hey, I'll make my own and chime in. So Joe made his video. I think the title of it is called "And the Oscars Should Have Gone To," and that's under the Mayo's Marquee channel, not his VC channel. And he went up to 1969, I believe, and he's going to do a second video to cover the years from 70 to now. Last I checked, he hadn't posted that one yet, but he said he's should be coming up here in the next few days. So the Academy Award, I looked it up, that as of the last ones that were given out in 2014, there have been 520 films nominated for Best Picture, which I thought was kind of just an interesting little number. But They started, the first year they gave them out was 1927. The first few years, up until I think 1934, they did the best pick. They had a double year, so it was like the best picture for 27 and 28 and 29 and 30 and 39 and 31 and so forth. And then in 34 they just went to the best picture in 1934, and it's been that way up ever since, up to now, that it's just a single year instead of an overlap double year. So Joe actually started, I want to say 1931. He mentioned in his video that the first the 4 years, I guess, he didn't cover. Most of those were, well, those were pretty much all silent movies at that point. And he said he likes silent movies, or he likes some of them, and he thought about it, but he just, for whatever reason, chose not to do the first 4 years there. I thought, I'll just go ahead and start at the beginning in 1927, which, like I said, would actually, they called it the 27-28 year, but I'll start with that and go all the way up to 2014, the last one. I don't know that I'm going to get, I might split this video if it goes too long, because there's a lot of movies to talk about here. And so I'm going to say what won the best picture in a given year. And I started off, I wrote down the other films nominated for that year, but it changes. I mean, sometimes you've got like 4 or 5 films nominated in a year. Some years you've got 10 films. Some years you've got something in between then. They've kind of, over the years, have changed it. They went just a few years ago to nominating 10 films again, like they did way back in the early days. But I looked up all the list of the films, and I just, tell you the truth, just got tired of writing down all those names, or got lazy there. So I've got all the also nominated films here for the first few years, and then I just sort of give up, and I noted some of the nominated films in other years, but not all of them, because I just didn't want to write all that stuff. And what I did, because I'm pretty good on films, so there's a lot of them where I know what year a film came out, films that I like, some of my favorite films that I remember, but not every year. And you're saying what came out in 1933 or 1945 or 1928 or 1952. So what I did was I went and I looked at the list of the films that won Best Picture for each year, and then I went and just looked up films released in 1934, films released in 1948, and it's for every year, just so that I could place the films in their proper year, and so that I could make sure I hadn't missed anything. And that was fun, because there were a lot of films that I ran across that I'd never heard of, that look really interesting, that I need to or want to check out on, if I can track them down on Netflix or whatever. Would be fun, especially the older films. There are a lot of films I've heard of and never seen, and so it was kind of took a lot of work. I wrote a whole notebook worth of listing films, and over about 3 days, worked on it a little bit, got tired, and came back, worked on it the next day, etc. Anyway, so without further ado, 1927 film that won Best Picture was Wings. They actually kind of gave 2 Best Pictures that year. The Wings one, they didn't call it the Best Picture, they called it the Best, they had a title for it, and they had kind of 2 titles. I guess kind of like in the Grammys where they have Album of the Year and Record of the Year, something like that. But Wings won the Best Picture, and something called Sunrise also won that second sort of kind of Best Picture category. But Wings is considered the Best Picture for that year, historically speaking. Wings I've never seen. I've seen bits and pieces of it on documentaries about the history of film and stuff. It's a movie about World War I flying aces, or airplane flying, fighting World War I stuff. Looks kind of interesting. It's a silent film, and I don't know that it's on DVD. I remember it being on video back in the day, but I just never got around to watching it. I don't know, so I can't really comment on whether it's any good or not. But I thought, 1927, there's not going to be much that I would remember. There were only 2 other movies nominated for Best Picture that year. One of them was called The Racket, and one of them was called Seventh Heaven. I've never heard of and don't know anything about either one of those. thinking Seventh Heaven probably doesn't have anything to do with the TV show, that crappy show on WB that came out years later. But anyway, so I was thinking that there would not be much from 1927 that I would know. But when I looked, I saw Sunrise I've heard of, I'm not seen. I've heard it's a good movie. There's a movie that I ran across called London After Midnight, which looked like kind of a thriller, scary movie. I don't know anything about it, but it looks good. I want to watch it. Napoleon, the Abel Gance movie, that's really long, but it's about, well, Napoleon. And I've seen that a long time ago. That was a really good movie and impressive for its time as far as technically innovative and so forth and good storytelling. But there's one head and tails above the rest. Metropolis came out in 1927. The was it Fritz Lang directed film, and just an incredible movie. The special effects for 1927, actually, they're pretty impressive by today's standards, and it's got a great story. And it's people living underground and on top of ground, and kind of the haves and the have-nots, and the rich and the poor, and automated drudgery of work and society and life and all that, which doesn't sound so fun, but it's an incredible film, great film, Metropolis, and that would be my pick for the best movie of 1927. It's funny because Wings is remembered historically as having won the first Academy Award, but Metropolis is now remembered as one of the landmark events of cinema. It's a movie that's studied in film school, and it's also just a really entertaining film. So 1927, Metropolis, I'll say over Wings. I haven't seen Wings, like I said, so I can't really say that, but Metropolis would be my choice for Best Picture. 1928, something called The Broadway Melody won. I've never seen it, I don't know. Other things nominated were Alibi, Hollywood Review, In Old Arizona, and The Patriot. I don't know anything about any of them, so there was a movie called Easy Virtue, which was one of the first or one of the earliest Hitchcock movies, but I've never seen it. I like a lot of Hitchcock movies, but I've never seen Easy Virtue. This would have been when he was still in England before he came to America, so I have no clue about that. There was one I ran across called The Terror, an early scary movie that looks interesting, but I've never seen. The only thing I've seen from 1928 that I could find was The Circus by Charlie Chaplin, and I love Chaplin, and I've seen The Circus, and it's not his absolute best, but it's a really good one, so I will say The Circus, 1928, my choice for Best Picture, having, of course, not seen Broadway Melody and no clue what that's about. 1929 we get to, what won the Best Picture, All Quiet on the Western Front, which is supposed to be a really good movie, I've heard. I haven't seen it again. It's about World War I think, if I remember correctly. The other things that were nominated that year, other films, were Big House, Disraeli, The Divorcee, The Love Parade, The Manxman, another Hitchcock movie I've never seen, Woman in the Moon, which is another Fritz Lang movie. Remember him from Metropolis 2 years earlier, and I've heard Woman in the Moon is good, but I have never seen it. I haven't seen any of those movies, so I really can't pick one for 1929. There's one other movie that I haven't seen, Diary of a Lost Girl with Louise Brooks, an old silent film actor girl, kind of a cute girl, who was one of the giants of the silent film era. I read a book about her, kind of interesting, her life story and all. I would like to see that. I've never seen one of her movies, so, but not having seen any of those, I can't really pick a 1929 Best Picture winner. I'll just defer to the Academy and go with All Quiet on the Western Front, because I've heard it's supposed to be one of the great movies. 1930 is much the same. Best Picture winner is Cimarron. I don't know, never saw it. I guess it's a Western. Other films nominated were East Lynne or East Line, The Front Page, Skippy, and Trader Horn. I haven't seen any of those, and I looked around in the 1930 list of other movies released, and I really didn't see anything that I recognized or that stuck out that I'd seen. So 1930, I'll just again defer and go with Cimarron. All right, 1931 is Grand Hotel is the Best Picture winner that year. I think is that a Marlene Dietrich film? I think, and I think I might have saw that somewhere way back there, but I don't remember it for sure if I did or not. Other films, other films nominated that year were Aerosmith. That's from the book, not the band. Bad Girl, which sounds fun. I don't know what it is. The Champ, which I think The Champ is the one that they remade years later in the 70s with Ricky Schroeder and John Voight. But this one was Wallace Beery as a boxer or wrestler, I think. Supposed to be a good movie, but I've never seen it. Five-star Final, I don't know. 1 Hour with You, Shanghai Express, and The Smiling Lieutenant. Never seen any of those. But 1931 does have some movies that I have seen, and good year for classic horror movies. You had Frankenstein, you had Dracula, you had Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, all of them great movies. I know that Joe, for 1931, I think he picked Public Enemy. It's supposed to be a good movie. I've never seen it. One of them on my list I probably need to see. But by far and above, 1931 is Charlie Chaplin in City Lights. It's Chaplin's best film, his finest moment, and one of the great films of all time. That's touching and funny and just a perfect film. And City Lights would by far be my choice for Best Picture in 1931. Okay, I'm going to do a 1932 and 33 because it's without going into explanation, it's difficult not to do it that way because the next year, 1934, they start going to the single years. But for the 32-33 year, the Best Picture winner was Cavalcade, and I've heard of it, never seen it. The other nominees were 42nd Street, Farewell to Arms, which was, I read the book and enjoyed. I've never seen the movie. It's a Hemingway book. The other films are I Am a Fugitive from the Chain Gang, Lady for a Day, heard of Fugitive from Chain Gang, never heard of Lady for a Day, Private Life of Henry VIII, which I've heard of, never seen, She Done Him Wrong, and Smiling Through, never heard of either of those. Little Women, which is the old book, Louisa May Alcott wrote that, I think, and that was the Little Woman version with Katharine Hepburn, I think, and I think I did see that somewhere back there, and it's an okay movie. And a movie called State Fair, don't know what that is, but I don't know what to pick there, but 19 out of that list, there's nothing. But in addition to the movies nominated that year, The Invisible Man, which I've always liked, a classic, I guess it's a horror movie, and it's a great one. But even better than that, in my opinion, is another horror movie called Vampire, spelled Vampyr. It's a very avant-garde, weird, freaky, strange, odd vampire movie that's a little different than your classic Dracula take on vampires, and it's a very odd and strange movie, kind of creepy and disturbing and cool movie. So I will go with Vampire for the Best Picture of 32 and 33. We're hitting time here, so I'm going to go up to 1940, and then I'll pick up with the rest of them. And we're at 1934 right now. Best Picture winner of that year, It Happened One Night. It's a great movie, so not a bad choice there. The other things nominated were The Barretts of Wimpole Street, Cleopatra, Flirtation Walk, Gay Divorcee, Here Comes the Navy, House of Rothschild, Imitation of Life, One Night of Love, The White Parade, Viva Dilla. Anyone knows what Viva Dilla is? And The Thin Man, the original first Thin Man with Myrna Loy and that guy Walter. Yeah, you know the guy. It Happened One Night's a great movie, so that's not a bad choice. I would go with The Thin Man over that, though. First one is classic, so Best Picture of 34 would be The Thin Man for me. 1935 is Mutiny on the Bounty won the Best Picture. This is where I kind of got tired of writing down all the movies, so I don't have the other ones that were nominated. But as a kind of a um, yeah, Mutiny on the Bounty. Bride of Frankenstein came out that year. I'd go with that as the best picture of that year. Um, there's one uncomfortable little bit of 1935. That's the year that Triumph of the Will came out. Leni Riefenstahl, the director. This can't pick a picture that glorifies Hitler and Nazi propaganda, but you can't deny that she was a brilliant filmmaker. Just happened to be poor choice in who she made films for. So technically, I don't know. You don't really want to say something good about a movie like that, but Bride of Frankenstein, 1935 would be my choice of Best Picture. 1936, we got The Great Ziegfeld won Best Picture. Never saw it. The other things that were nominated, or I don't know if this is the entire list, but Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. I've seen that. That's a good movie. Libeled Lady. I think I saw that somewhere back there. I don't remember it. Dodsworth was a pretty good movie, but something that wasn't nominated. Again, with Charlie Chaplin, Modern Times. Classic movie. Not quite as good as City Lights, but damn close. So Modern Times, Best Picture in 1936, in my opinion. 1937 is a Best Picture movie by the title of The Life of Emile Zola, or Emily Zola. I think it's Emile Zola. Heard of, never seen. Some of the other things that were nominated that year were The Awful Truth with Cary Grant and Irene Dunne. Really good movie. So, just a entertaining movie. I don't know if it's Best Picture material. Stage Door, heard of, never seen. Lost Horizon, ditto. Star is Born, same thing. That's the original Star is Born. That's Judy Garland, I think, but I've never seen that version. Snow White came out that year, and The Grand Illusion. I would go with Best Picture being between those two, either Snow White or The Grand Illusion. Both of them really great movies. 1938, You Can't Take It With You won Best Picture, which is a good movie. But also out that year was Bringing Up Baby with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. Way better movie, classic movie, one of the best comedies ever. So that would be my choice, Best Picture, 1938, Bringing Up Baby. 1939, of course, Gone with the Wind won. I've seen the movie. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I sat through it once. Not a bad movie. I thought it was kind of boring. Just really didn't do it for me. I don't have anything against it, but I just didn't really have anything for it either. Rules of the Game was a great movie that came out that year, and of course Wizard of Oz. I'd probably give the nod to Wizard of Oz as the Best Picture that year. So let's do 1940, and we'll just going way too long. Rebecca won Best Picture in 1940. That is Hitchcock's first American-made movie. I love that movie, and I don't really have a problem with that being the Best Picture. It's Joan Fontaine, and she's kind of a naive girl that marries a very rich man whose wife had died a few years previously, and goes to live with the guy in his big, beautiful estate mansion house in England. And there's a crazy housekeeper lady that gives her all kind of troubles, and problems ensue. Great movie. I mean, it's kind of silly, or not silly. I mean, it's kind of dated by you would think that the lady would have just thrown the old crone out and told her to shut up and get lost, but she doesn't. She puts up with her. But it's a great movie. I don't have a problem with that being the Best Picture, but I think They Drive by Night, a Humphrey Bogart movie, is really great. That came out that year. The Grapes of Wrath is a good movie. The book's better, but the movie's really good. Great Dictator with Charlie Chaplin. Give it a run for its money. This is his first talking film, actually, even though films were talkies for the last 10 years or so, but Chaplin held off and didn't do a talking film until now. But The Great Dictator is a really good one. Not quite as good as either Modern Times or City Lights or some of his earlier films, but great nonetheless. But Philadelphia Story came out in 1940, and that's another up there with Bringing Up Baby. It's one of the best comedies of all time. Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart, and I would Philadelphia Story, Best Picture 1940. So there you go. I'm going to stop here and come back and do some more.